When we look at unity, when we look at the civil rights movement of the 1960s and how it was successful, we're talking about a foundation of love, practical Christianity. Martin Luther King said, "We cannot destroy hate with hate. By returning hate with hate, hate multiplies. So love is the only thing that can cancel out hate." Martin Luther King believed that in order to change the system, one needed to live from a humble and loving spirit. In unity, we believe that we can indeed live from love, a Christ consciousness exemplified by Jesus. That is what unity was founded upon. That is what Martin Luther King taught in his spiritual movement, the civil rights movement of the 1960s.
So that was a video that was created and put out by Unity World Headquarters, our parent organization, in honor of Black History Month and of Dr. King. And one thing she says in there when she's talking about Dr. King's ministry, says, in order to change the system, one needs to live from a humble and loving spirit. That is true of changing any system. And that is true of why Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was successful in what he did, from what I believe. He was a man of God first and foremost. I think we could probably agree with that. And he was guided by Spirit in everything that he did. And his success, I believe, comes from this. Not from the sensational Nightingales, but from the quote on their cover, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God." He might have liked the sensational Nightingales. I don't know. Maybe they're an inspiration. But let's dive into this quote here from the actual New Testament, from the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 33. "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." Raise your hand if you've heard that before, just to get an idea of, okay, good. So most of us have heard that before. This is one of the most simple but yet powerful and applicable statements in the entire New Testament, from my personal opinion. And we're going to get into that. But if you desire success in anything, this is an absolute necessity. So for us to begin down this path, we're going to have to understand why this statement is so important, which means we're going to have to come to a common understanding of some words being used here. And we're going to have to answer this question: what is the kingdom of God? It's probably something that many of us have taken for granted if you've heard that quote or if you've read that quote in the Bible before. Well, I'm going to answer that question for you. This is the kingdom of God. Well, that is at least the image that many of us were probably raised with, or that might have popped to mind when I said that. We often think that this concept of heaven is synonymous with the kingdom of God. They're just sort of this interchangeable thing. And we've got the idea, you know, we have this afterlife realm. There's harps, there's clouds, there's angels, there's a pearly gates, and of course, if you're in my heaven, there's Chipotle burritos. So anyone who wants to be in my heaven, we'll have plenty of these, so be excited about that. But I'm going to have to take this down because I completely lost the first service drooling. There was just stains down their chest, so we get that down. So I want to bring this up. This is something important. I'm going to read this. If you've ever read an interpreter's study Bible, it actually gives comments throughout the Bible from the interpreter's perspective, the person that was translating it, the struggles they were facing with certain terms, certain phrases, certain things happening in the Bible, so you get to a better understanding of what they go through when they go through this process. So this is what they said about the kingdom of God. "It is difficult to find an adequate phrase in English to convey the meaning of the Greek." I'm not even going to try to say that. If anyone speaks Greek, congratulations. "The translation, kingdom of God, is problematic because it conveys the notion of a locale with fixed boundaries. A further difficulty is that it conveys a male monarchical model of rule with the image of God as king. So even just the original Greek is difficult to translate into English without establishing this concept of a place with a ruler of the head of this place. So they're pointing out they struggled to translate this, and they still went with kingdom of God because it's the closest thing they had, but they're just sort of giving this aside to say that's not actually quite right. It's just the best we can do. And that's something that's important to remember when you're hearing people debate about the Bible, or they're saying that the Bible is absolutely perfect and flawless, every word from start to finish. Well, even the people that are translating the Bible are saying, we're doing the best we can. We can't get every word right. It's impossible. So there are variations in the Bible. And I'm actually was spending the last week in a debate with Christians online that the Bible is, in fact, not perfect. And they're saying it absolutely is flawless and perfect. And I would actually reference new digs we've done. We've discovered older versions which show that the current ones we have are flawed and the wording is wrong. And this is a point to that. And they say, no, it's perfect. And I'll say, well, which version is perfect? Because King James is not the same as the American Revised Standard Version or the New Revised Standard Version. They're all different. So which version are you saying is perfect? Well, anyway, we go down a rabbit hole with that, and it's fun. But I think it's important to accept that the Bible is not a flawless piece of work. It was written by real human beings, inspired by God, and that sort of makes it more real and applicable for us, from my perspective. Well, luckily, we do have a further definition of what the kingdom of God is. Jesus defined it for us in Luke. He said, once Jesus was asked by the Pharisees when the kingdom of God was coming, and he answered, the kingdom of God is not coming with things that can be observed, nor will they say, look, here it is, or there it is. For, in fact, the kingdom of God is among you. And another translation they offer is within you. So if you ever see these little letters there, the Bible writers have alternate translations. If the word's not perfectly going into English, they'll give you a couple different options that are close. The kingdom of God is among you. The kingdom of God is within you. So, where are we to seek first and foremost? Above all other things, it is within. It is among us. We are meant to turn within before we do anything else in life. We're supposed to check in before we do anything else in life. But not just turning within to some abyss of nothingness and trying to get something out of that. Instead of using the term turning within, I would actually recommend the term tapping in. Turning within is sort of going to this space that we don't know what's there, but tapping in, when we know we tap into something, it creates a flow. So I like the idea of tapping in instead. And our co-founder, Unity co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore, clarified it by saying this. Jesus said, seek ye first the kingdom of God. This means that we are to find the wealth of capabilities and spiritual resources within us and bring them into expression. When we develop the power to accomplish things and the qualities that we need in order to accomplish them, success is assured. Is there much of else, anything in life where you can say success in that is assured? But she's very clear about it. It's not just going in with half effort that success will be assured. She says, when we develop the power to accomplish things and the qualities that we need in order to accomplish them, success is assured. I remember my dad growing up, he used to say, your time will come, but you have to be ready when it comes. You have to have done the footwork, you have to have done the practice, you have to have done the time required to be an expert at that when your opportunity comes, or else it's going to pass you by, which means you have to work it. So when we tap into this infinite wealth, when we utilize these spiritual resources and capabilities that are standing by waiting for us, then success is assured. Which reminds me of one of my favorite Yogananda quotes. And if you're not familiar with Paramahansa Yogananda, he was a guru from India that was called to come to the United States to try to merge Eastern philosophy with Western culture. He actually saw this as an amazing place that had amazing systems and structures to take care of people. He saw the vast difference between the poverty in India and that we actually did a relatively good job of leveling the playing field. He thought if you could mix Indian spiritual philosophy with this structure, you might have something amazing, and that was what he tried to do. So he did this in the early 1900s, which amazingly is the same time that the Fillmores were developing this movement we called Unity. So I got to share a little backstory before I get to this quote, how this quote happened. It was about 2 or 3 years ago. I was in Las Vegas doing my ministry, and one of my friends and congregants in that church invited me to a class he was teaching about meditation. And I was happy to go, and I actually took my daughter Anna with me to go. And when we got to the space it was being held, at the door was a table with a bunch of pieces of paper with Yogananda quotes on it. And we were supposed to pick whichever quote resonated with us and then walk in and sit down. So I picked one, Anna picked one, everyone picked one, we all went in. And when we got inside, his name was Don. Don actually had all 15 quotes in front of him and just started reading each quote so we could hear these quotes. And then when he got to this one, well, here's the one he got to that stood out for me. It said, persistence guarantees that results are inevitable. And that is one of my favorite Yogananda quotes. And the reason I tell you the backstory of this, because when he got to that quote, Don stopped and looked up at the group and he said, I bet this is the one that Reverend Shad picked. And my daughter started chuckling because there I was sitting there holding that exact quote in my hands. And it was that evening that I realized this. I am not as mysterious and unpredictable as I think I am. Persistence guarantees that results are inevitable. But Yogananda is not talking about persisting after the things of this world, trying to get the different devices and obtainments and positions in this world. Yogananda's ministry, in large part, was all about spiritual persistence. He did not have a passive path to spirituality. It was a very active and persistent path to spirituality. He constantly talked about the fortitude and willpower required to stick to your practice and to stay on course. Even in the face of adversity or illness or trial and error, whatever you're facing, he constantly talked about even in good times, even in bad times, even when you don't see any results from your spiritual practice, you get up and you do it again and again and again and again, because each day your practice is changing you from the inside in ways you have no idea how. And one day you'll look back and go, oh, I'm a completely different person than I was. I just wasn't seeing it in flashes of light. So he talked about that spiritual persistence, that persistence to the practice, which brings me to this little gem. So that's the 3 people that know what that slogan is. All right. See, I think Yogananda used a very appropriate word there, persistence. And when I think about the power of that word, persistence is an action word. Persistence has movement behind it. Seek ye first. The word seek doesn't have a lot of power behind it, doesn't have a lot of motion behind it. Listen to the difference in the words, seek and persistence. To me, seek sounds passive. It sounds like something you do when you get around to it, just when it happens to be the right time, or when things aren't a struggle, or when it feels like it's right, or when I get my calling, then I'll start seeking, or when I find the right teacher. But persistence puts you behind the wheel of a bulldozer and says, you got to power through this thing. You got to keep pushing. You got to floor it. You got to make this happen. You don't sit back and wait for it to come to you. You move into it. You become it. You strive until you've made it happen. Persisting is every day in the forefront of your mind. Seeking is like, yeah, I did some yesterday. I might seek a little bit more on Friday. But that's not persistence. So let's revisit this quote from Matthew, and I want to add another version of the Bible so we can see the difference. So from King James it says, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." The New Revised Standard Version is the version I use, which was recommended to me during my ministerial schooling. It says, "But strive first for the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." Do you see what a difference it makes in just those couple of different wording? Strive first. The King James is what is most commonly quoted because he was sort of first on the scene to get it out there. And nowadays, if you think about it, if you seek for something, you can seek for something from the comforts of your couch in your living room and never go out and do anything. But striving and persisting says, put your back into it. Put some effort into it. Put some sweat and tears into it. Give it more focus than an afterthought. Give it everything you have. Strive and persist towards it. Strive first, and then the kingdom of God will open and pour down these blessings on you. Strive first for the kingdom of God, and then the blessings will come. And the reason that this is a truth, I'm going to put it back up because it is a truth, it's powerful. The reason that this is a truth with a capital T, and let me explain to you the difference between a truth with a lowercase t. When we capitalize a word in Unity and the New Thought movement, we are referring to the divine essence of that word, the unchanging, unfailable definition of that word. Divine truth is a truth no matter if it was 5,000 years ago or if it's 5,000 years from now, it is still a truth. It cannot be changed and is not affected by human action. A little t truth is a truth that I think is true, but when I say it, it probably becomes less true because I'm so often wrong. That's just my personal experience. I don't know about the rest of you. This is a divine truth. This is infallible for two different reasons. And the first reason is if you truly strive for the kingdom of God, first and foremost, your goals, your wants, your desires, and your plans will shift away from the things of this illusionary, insane world and towards the things of spirit and God and the absolute essence of life. If you strive first for that, you will shift the directions you are heading in. And you will always pursue things that are the best for all people involved. It will stop being about what's best for you. You will start pursuing things that are best for all people. Now, the second point, why that's truth with a capital T, if you truly strive for the kingdom of God first and foremost, you will release your attachment to outcomes. And by doing so, you will finally find joy, peace, happiness, and contentment with anything that comes your way. With any outcome from your effort, you will find joy, peace, happiness, and contentment. We often have a specific plan or a goal or a question we're trying to get answered. And we've been struggling with it for a long time, some of us our entire lives, because we forgot this powerful initial step. Just think about if you actually took the time to stop and connect before you made your decisions, before you looked at, this is the goal I want to get to, here's all the steps I have to take to get there. If you actually stopped and said, will that and will this journey bring me more unwavering peace, unwavering joy, unwavering contentment, unwavering bliss, unwavering wisdom and abundance? And if you couldn't answer yes to all those, you'd go, well, then there's no point to it. That would be stupid. To spend all this time trying to get there, have never even stopped to say, it's not going to bring me what I want. What's the point of investing 5 years into that career path if I know when I get there it's not going to guarantee happiness? If I don't have peace, joy, love, contentment, what do I have? If I don't have it when I start the journey, if I don't have it during the journey, and I'm not guaranteed to have it after the journey, what am I doing? What is the point of all of it? Which is really to say, if I don't have God, what do I have? If we stop to strive for God first, then we might discover that the plans we have, the goals we have, the questions we've been trying to get answered were actually irrelevant in the grand scheme of the things that we truly want deep down and the things that we truly need deep down. All of this was just distraction. All of it was just garbage. If I had just taken the time to stop and say, does any of this matter to what really is going to bring me what I want? We want a better financial situation. There's probably no one in this room that doesn't want that. Whether you're a millionaire or you have no job and you're currently broke, we probably all want that exact same thing, so that levels the playing field. You have something in common to talk about in the fellowship hall now. But the problem is not your current job, and the problem is not your lack of a current job, and the problem is not money at all. The problem is the deep sense of lack within us that is the result of a self-inflicted disconnection with divine abundance. Everything we need and want is right here. But we have a self-inflicted disconnection from it, which makes us feel this emptiness inside, like we need more of something. We want better relationships, whether it be with a coworker, whether it be with a spouse or a partner or a friend or a family member. But it is not about chemistry or personality profiles. It's not about similarities. It's not about passion. It's not about what we call love around here. It's not even about swiping right, for those of you that are still working on that. Oh, good. More of you are familiar with that than the first service. It's just crickets. If you don't know, that's how you search for a partner in today's age. No, not soulmate, not soulmate, not soulmate. Oh, soulmate. It's none of those things, because the problem is the deep sense of emptiness within ourselves that we keep expecting someone else to fill. We keep expecting that someone else is going to be able to fill this deep emptiness I have inside me, an emptiness that ultimately stems from feeling disconnected from Source. I feel disconnected from Source, so I'm desperately trying to find someone who can fill this infinite disconnection and emptiness I have inside me. No pressure. Next time you think someone else has come up short in the relationship, I want you to tell them, you couldn't fill this infinite void inside me that stems from my inherent disconnection with the source of all things? Because that's ultimately what you're saying. Parents are struggling to raise kids in this modern age of technological distractions, and I am one of those people. But the problem is not technology. The problem is that we as adults are not exemplifying what it means to put God first in our own lives. We look at this younger generation, I hear people say it like, oh my goodness, the future's in for it. When these kids grow up, big trouble. Big trouble. Well, I hate to break it to you, the world's messed up right now because of us. The next generation's not going to make it any worse. It only can go up from here. So if you're thinking about, wow, they're really going to blow this, we kind of blew it. That's where we are, because we are exemplifying right now how you treat the planet, how you treat other people. This is completely off topic, but I've just thought of this recently. It's very important. This is really important. Has anyone, do you ever talk to Siri or Google when you ask for things on the internet, that sort of thing? Please start saying please and thank you to it. You realize they're analyzing how to treat people through our dialogue with it. Did you know that? People talk to these things disrespectfully, like, hey, find me this, hey, give me that. It's analyzing how to treat people. Think about that. Because one day robots will take over. You got to hope that they learn some respect for humanity. Did you not know that? Okay. Scaring people. All right. This is one of my second favorite Yogananda quotes. The world lures you into bad habits, but the world will not stand responsible for your wrong actions springing from those bad habits. Does that not sound like the Course in Miracles? This illusionary world constantly lures you towards selfishness, financial selfishness, and financial overexertion. And this world will be the first to jump at the chance to punish you when you get into financial trouble. Right? Am I wrong? They're going to sell you into a loan you'll never be able to pay, and then when you can't pay that loan, they go, what's wrong with you? I was only there 6 times, so I have experience in that. And I said, what's wrong with me is that you guys do a horrible job picking people for loans. I would not have picked me to be able to pay this loan off. That's on you. You looked at my financials. We saw the same thing. It will do everything it can to make you physically ill. And then when you fall physically ill, it will charge you through the teeth to try to help you get better. That's the kind of world we live in. It'll encourage you to go off and fight a war for this country, and then when you get back, it won't take care of you. It'll say, thank you for your service. Good luck surviving. Yogananda continues on in this quote. Why then give all your time to the world? Reserve even an hour a day for actual God realization. Doesn't the giver of the world itself, of your family, possessions, everything, deserve 1/24th part of your time? Since the dawn of humankind, this world has changed in massive and unimaginable ways, but the purpose of the human experience has not changed one bit. The purpose of the human experience from when we were sitting in caves trying to figure out how to make fire to today where we can talk to anyone in the world in an instant on a device in our hands, the purpose of this life has not changed one bit. And if anyone here doesn't know what the purpose of life is, it's actually quite simple. It's to learn how to live in divine joy, divine love, divine wisdom, divine abundance, divine bliss. That's all we're here to do. To learn to live in that state that Christ obtained and learned to live in. But that is almost completely unattainable until we learn to make that the focus in our lives. It's a pipe dream until we learn to make that the focus in our lives, first and foremost. Which brings us to our 5th unity principle of our 5 unity principles. Knowledge of these spiritual principles is not enough. Darn it. We must live them. You mean reading the book wasn't enough? No. You have to live what you read in the book. You mean going to the seminar wasn't enough? No. You have to actually do what was taught in the seminar. Now, maybe you are not ready to give a full hour of your day to God, as Yogananda suggested. But we have to start somewhere. And I know that's a lot to ask of people in this modern age. So sometimes I tell people, 1 minute. Can you start with 1 minute every single day? Now, some people will meditate a half an hour here or there. It's sporadic. Give up on that. Well, don't give up on that. Continue to do that. But do something every single day. If it's just 1 minute, when you wake up in the morning and you work an affirmation or you meditate or you pray for a minute, you'll start to feel, I'd like to make this 2 minutes. This feels pretty good. I'd like to make this 5 minutes. I'd like to make this 10 minutes. And eventually you might be at 30 minutes, and then you might be at 60 minutes. Because you're going to start to feel the shift. You're going to start to notice things different in your life. you start to feel the change. But we've got to do something. We've got to put God first in some way. Now, we have been blessed to live in an honorable universe where each of us has equal opportunity to seek this divine presence. It is no further from anyone on this planet than it is from everyone on this planet. We are all equidistant from Source. It's right here, and that is the true blessing of this life. No one has put at a disadvantage from seeking Source. It's an honorable universe. We have to strive, though, for that connection. We have to strive for it, not just haphazardly seek it. We have to strive for it, and we have to persist after it. Because what we are going after is so magnificent that it surpasses human comprehension. It surpasses the understanding that the mind can even wrap itself around. And I think that's worthwhile going after. And that's the truth as I experience it.